What if a quiet evening with your grandson turned into a life-changing conversation? It started with us just sitting together on the couch, watching Netflix like any other night. But then, he said something that made me stop, look at him differently. Want to know what he said? Stay tuned and find out. This moment made me rethink everything. Where are you watching us from today? Drop your city in the comments below. I'd love to hear where you're joining from. And before we jump into the story, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. We've got plenty of stories like this coming your way. It was just another quiet evening, the sort where time seems to slow down, where the only sound is the low hum of the TV and the occasional shuffle of socks across the hardwood floors. I was sitting on the old, worn-out couch in my living room, a blanket draped over my legs, the TV flickering with whatever Netflix show we'd decided on for the night. It didn't matter much what was on. It never did. I had my grandson, Ethan, beside me. He was 15 now, almost a stranger in his own way. The baby-faced boy who used to run into my arms for a hug was now taller than me, and his laugh had deepened in ways I hadn't quite adjusted to. But there he was, sitting next to me, phone in hand, half paying attention to whatever we were watching. "Grandma, can you pass me the popcorn?" His voice was casual, but there was something in the way he asked that made me pause. I hadn't noticed it before, but the shift in his tone caught me off guard. I handed him the bowl, our fingers brushing just for a second. I smiled, trying to ignore the knot that was slowly forming in my stomach. Kids grow up too fast. That's something you hear all the time, but you never realize how true it is until it's happening to you. You go from holding them in your arms to holding on to memories of them being small, to this quiet, almost distant presence beside you. I took a deep breath and focused on the TV screen. Some lighthearted comedy. Perfect for a relaxed night. But as I watched, I realized that I wasn't really seeing the show at all. My thoughts kept drifting back to Ethan. "Hey, Grandma." I glanced over at him, a little startled. It was rare for him to speak up unless he had something on his mind, but this felt different. His eyes were focused on the screen, but there was a certain weight behind his words. "Yeah." He paused, shifting his position on the couch, as if he were gathering his thoughts. Then he turned to face me. His expression was soft, almost uncertain, and for a moment, I wondered if he even realized how much of a grown-up he was becoming. I think I've been spending too much time looking down at my phone," he said, his voice hesitant, like he was testing the waters to see if I would understand. I raised an eyebrow. "Isn't that what everyone does these days?" "Yeah, but I don't know." He put his phone down on the couch beside him, the sound of it landing softly against the fabric. "I just feel like I've been missing a lot of things. Like I've been so focused on what's next or what's happening online that I forgot to just be here. You know?" There was a pause, and in that silence, my heart seemed to skip a beat. Did he just say that? "Are you saying you're not paying attention to the show?" I tried to make light of it, but my words didn't come out as casually as I intended. He shook his head, a small grin tugging at his lips. "No, not just the show. I mean, life. I think sometimes I forget to just be present. Like right now, sitting here with you. I should be more focused on this moment." I wasn't sure what to say at first. I thought about the many conversations I'd had with friends about the way the world was changing so quickly. People were always talking about how disconnected we all seemed to be, how everyone's attention was fractured, divided between screens and notifications. But hearing it from Ethan, my own grandson, made it hit differently. "Ethan," I said, my voice softer than I meant it to be. "That's a pretty big thing to realize at your age." He shrugged, still not fully meeting my eyes. "I guess, but it feels true, you know. I don't know when I started feeling so distracted, but I think I'm tired of it." I sat back, looking at him, really looking at him. There was something so honest about the way he spoke, something so mature. For a few seconds, we just sat there, side by side, in comfortable silence. The glow from the TV lit up his face, casting soft shadows across his features. The world outside felt so distant, so irrelevant. It was just us in this moment, this rare, fleeting moment where he was sharing something that mattered. "I'm proud of you, Ethan," I said quietly. "You've got wisdom beyond your years." His face flushed just a little, the corners of his lips twitching into that shy smile that always reminded me of the little boy who would sit on my lap and tell me all his little secrets. "Thanks, Grandma. I think I just needed to say it out loud. I don't really talk about this stuff with anyone else." It was then that I realized this conversation, this simple moment, was one of those rare, priceless exchanges that didn't need to be flashy or profound. It was just the two of us, speaking from the heart, in a way that didn't need to be fixed, but simply understood. And just like that, in a world where everyone was always looking ahead, I realized that perhaps the most important thing was not to rush to the next moment. Maybe the true value was in sitting together, in quietly acknowledging the simple, honest things that made us who we were. The evening unfolded slowly, like a soft melody that lingers long after the music stops. Ethan and I stayed seated on the couch, neither of us reaching for our phones again, as if we both had been given a new sense of purpose, a shared understanding that was bigger than any show we could be watching. The TV droned on in the background, the voices of the characters a mere hum compared to the quiet hum of our thoughts. I glanced over at Ethan. He was no longer slouched, eyes glazed over with indifference, as he often was when he zoned out in front of the screen. Instead, he had a sort of calmness to him, his posture a little straighter, his focus fixed not on the flashing images before us, but on the stillness of the room. "What made you think about all this?" I asked, unable to shake the curiosity buzzing in my mind, about not being so distracted. Ethan hesitated, his gaze shifting to the window for a moment, as if searching for the right words in the quiet night outside. When he finally spoke, his voice was quieter than usual, more introspective. "I don't know. I guess I've been feeling kinda disconnected lately," he admitted, the words coming out more slowly than I was used to hearing from him. "Like I get home from school, and I just go straight to my room. I go on my phone, then the computer, then maybe I'll watch something, but nothing really feels like it matters. It's all just noise. You know what I mean?" I nodded, even though I wasn't sure he could see it. "I do know," I said softly. "I think we all feel like that sometimes. The world moves so fast, and it's easy to get caught up in everything. But that doesn't mean you have to give in to it." His eyes met mine then, earnest and searching. "How do you deal with it, Grandma? How do you stay connected?" There was a pause, a brief flutter in my chest. I hadn't expected him to ask me that, to turn the tables and make me the one answering questions. But there was something in the way he looked at me, a sense of respect, perhaps, or maybe just the simple desire for guidance. I thought for a moment, my fingers absently twirling the edge of the blanket across my lap. "Well," I said, drawing the word out, "I guess I've learned over the years that it's not about avoiding everything else. It's about making sure the things that matter stay close." Ethan was still watching me closely, his head tilted slightly as if trying to piece it all together. "Like family?" he asked, his voice soft, unsure. I smiled at the way he phrased it. "Exactly," I said, "but it's more than just family. It's about being present with the people who matter, whether it's me, your friends, or even just the small things that make life worth living. You don't need to be constantly running towards something new or worrying about what's next. You have to take a breath, slow down, and appreciate the moment." There was a silence between us, and I wondered if he was actually hearing me, or if this was one of those conversations that would slip through the cracks of his teenage world and get buried beneath the weight of new distractions tomorrow. But then, just as I was about to speak again, he nodded slowly, the sort of nod that told me he was actually processing my words. "I think I get it," he said after a beat, his voice quieter. "I think I've been living my life like I'm always waiting for the next thing, for something bigger. But maybe I just need to pay attention to what I have right now." "Exactly," I said, my heart swelling with a mixture of pride and relief. "That's the secret. It's not about the next big thing. It's about the things you already have right in front of you. Like right now, like sitting here with me." Ethan shifted a little on the couch, his body language softer now. "I think I've been so focused on what I want in the future that I forgot about the things I actually have." I smiled, feeling a warmth spreading through me, something tender and full of quiet understanding. "You're not alone in that, Ethan. I think we all do it, sometimes." For a long while, neither of us spoke. The evening wore on, and I realized with a kind of bittersweet joy that something had shifted between us. It was as if that small conversation, nothing particularly groundbreaking or life-changing in its words, had planted a seed, one that would slowly begin to grow, in both of us. I could see it in the way Ethan settled into the moment, his fingers now resting on the arm of the couch, his head tilted slightly back. His breath seemed deeper, more measured. It was like the noise of the world had quieted for just a second, and for the first time in a while, he was here, really here, with me. It made me realize something. Maybe I'd been so focused on keeping him close when he was younger that I had forgotten the importance of simply being here with him now, in this moment, even as we both changed. Our relationship had evolved, yes, but that didn't mean we had to lose touch with the parts of us that still mattered. After a while, he grabbed the remote and paused the show, the characters frozen mid-conversation on the screen. He turned to me, his expression now a little more serious, but still full of that curious energy that made me love him so much. "Grandma," he began, his voice steady, Do you think I'm growing up too fast?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I simply looked at him. The boy who used to run to me with scraped knees, the boy who still sometimes needed a hug after a long day. I thought about the boy he was becoming, the teenager who was beginning to find his own way, the one who was learning the importance of the present, of family, and of really living. "No, Ethan," I finally said, my voice soft but full of conviction. "I think you're growing up just the way you're supposed to, and I'm proud of you." And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the world was rushing us. I didn't feel like time was slipping through my fingers. I just felt the simple joy of being together, of knowing that no matter what came next, this moment, this quiet, unspoken connection between us, was enough. The night stretched on, and the world outside seemed to fade into a distant blur. The soft glow from the TV screen was the only light in the room, and yet it felt like something much warmer surrounded us. Ethan and I didn't return to the show, nor did we resume the scattered, distracted pace we had been accustomed to. The hours ticked by unnoticed, as if we had somehow stepped outside of time and into a space where only the two of us existed. It felt peaceful in a way I hadn't expected, almost as if the weight of our earlier conversation had settled into the room, giving it a new kind of purpose. I noticed how different the air felt now. It was thick with an unspoken understanding, a shared silence that carried more meaning than words could convey. I was aware of the soft rustling of the blanket around my legs, the occasional click of his fingers against the fabric of his jeans, the way his eyes would flicker to mine every now and then. His gaze wasn't as distant as it often used to be when we'd spent time together. Instead, he looked at me like he was trying to catch every fleeting moment, as though he knew something that I didn't. After a long stretch of quiet, Ethan spoke again, his voice softer, less certain, but still grounded with that quiet wisdom that had surprised me earlier. "Grandma, do you think people really change?" His question hung in the air, casual but with an undercurrent of something deeper, something vulnerable. I raised an eyebrow, genuinely curious where he was going with this. Ethan was always full of thoughts, sometimes so many of them at once, and yet this question felt different. It felt like a piece of him was searching for an answer, not just to satisfy his curiosity, but to help him understand something about himself. "I think people do change," I replied slowly, choosing my words carefully. "But I don't think change always happens the way we expect it to." He turned his body toward me, his elbow resting on the armrest. There was that same seriousness in his eyes that I'd seen earlier, a quiet intensity that seemed to make everything else in the room fade away. "I feel like I'm changing a lot right now," he admitted. "Like I'm not the same person I was last year. I don't even think I'm the same person I was a few months ago. And it's weird. I don't know if I like it or not." His confession hit me harder than I expected. It's strange, really, how we often think of change as something distant, something that happens only to other people. But then suddenly we realize it's happening to us too. And sometimes we don't even notice until we're in the middle of it. "I get that," I said quietly, leaning forward a little. Sometimes we don't notice the changes until they're already there. You wake up one day and realize you've grown, in one way or another, and it can be hard to figure out what to do with it. Ethan looked down at his hands, tracing the lines of his fingers as if searching for an answer there, somewhere within himself. "I don't really know who I'm supposed to be right now," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Like, part of me feels like I should still be a kid, but another part feels like I need to be something else. Something more. But I don't know what that is yet." I couldn't help but smile softly at his words, not in amusement but in a quiet recognition. Ethan, like so many others his age, was caught in the liminal space between childhood and adulthood, the awkward in-between where everything feels uncertain, and the world seems to be waiting for you to figure it out. It was a place I knew all too well, a place where I had spent much of my own youth trying to make sense of who I was supposed to be. "You don't have to figure everything out right now," I said gently, meeting his gaze. "Life isn't a race. It's okay to not have all the answers. What matters is that you're trying to understand who you are, and that's enough." There was a long pause. For a moment, Ethan seemed to absorb my words, his mind turning over the idea that he didn't have to rush into becoming whoever he thought he was supposed to be. Maybe he didn't have to have all the answers right now, and maybe that was perfectly fine. After all, I had learned that lesson much later in life, only to realize that waiting for the perfect moment to figure things out often led to more confusion than clarity. "You know, Grandma," he said after a while, his tone lighter now, though still thoughtful. "I think I might have been stressing out about all this change too much. Maybe it's okay if I don't have it all figured out yet. Like you said, I don't have to race through it." I chuckled softly, relieved to see the tension in his shoulders ease. "Exactly. Life will show you where you need to go. You don't have to force it." Ethan shifted on the couch, his body relaxing into the cushions, as if the weight of the conversation had lifted off of him. The room felt warmer somehow, the space between us now full of quiet understanding, rather than the uncertainty that had lingered before. "I don't think I've ever really thought about it like that," he said with a quiet smile, the kind of smile that made me feel like I'd just shared a secret with him, a piece of wisdom that might stick with him long after the night ended. "Well, I'm glad I could help," I replied with a wink, nudging him gently with my elbow. "Just remember, it's okay to take it one step at a time." There was a beat of silence, but this time it didn't feel heavy. Instead, it felt like the kind of pause that was filled with possibility, the kind that happens when you realize you're not alone in this journey, when someone else is walking beside you, offering support, and waiting for you to figure things out at your own pace. And in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't just teaching him. He was teaching me too. The world changes constantly, that much was true. And in many ways, Ethan and I had both changed since this evening began. But what I had come to understand, in a way I hadn't quite expected, was that change didn't need to be something feared or rushed through. It could be something beautiful, something that unfolded slowly and softly, just like this evening. And maybe, just maybe, the most important thing wasn't about figuring it all out, but about sharing these moments with the people we love, letting the change come when it's ready, and learning together how to be present through it all. The next few days passed in a blur of routine, a mixture of school, chores, and quiet moments spent in each other's company. But something had shifted, and it wasn't just me who felt it. Ethan seemed to carry a new quietness about him, a depth I hadn't noticed before. He still had that typical teenage energy, the quick humor and the occasional annoyance when I'd ask him to help with something. But there was something else now, something more reflective. He had a new way of looking at the world, as if he had taken a step back to observe it rather than just rushing through it. One afternoon, a week after our conversation on the couch, Ethan walked into the kitchen where I was fixing dinner, his movements slow, almost deliberate. "Hey, Grandma," he began, looking at me with that same thoughtful expression from the night we'd shared our talk. He scratched the back of his neck, a nervous habit he picked up over the years. I was thinking about something we talked about. I paused, knife midair, as I chopped vegetables. I set it down, giving him my full attention. "What's on your mind?" I think I want to slow down more. I mean, I don't want to be that kid who spends every minute on their phone, you know? I want to be more like how you live, like with intention. I feel like I've been letting things slip by too fast. His words hit me in the chest, a soft, unexpected ache. It was as if, in the short time since our talk, he had internalized what I had shared with him. It wasn't that I had expected him to change overnight, but there was something so profound in hearing him say that, as if he were already making the effort to live with more awareness and presence. "You already are, Ethan," I said, my voice gentle. "The fact that you're thinking about it shows how much you've grown. I'm proud of you." He grinned at me then, that familiar, shy smile of his that made my heart swell with pride. "Thanks. I guess I'll try to spend less time scrolling and more time being, well, here." I chuckled. "Well, I can't ask for much more than that. Just remember, it's not about being perfect. It's about being real." He nodded thoughtfully, his eyes serious. "I get it. And I think I want to spend more time doing things with you, like just being with you without distractions. I don't want to miss out on that." I felt my throat tighten. The words were simple, but they held a depth that I hadn't expected. For a long time, I had worried about Ethan pulling away, about him becoming too absorbed in his own world to remember the value of the time we spent together. But in this moment, he had shown me something I hadn't realized I needed to see, a reminder that love doesn't always need to be forced. It simply needed to be acknowledged and appreciated,